Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today we're doing part 5 of our Jurassic World Evolution 2 mod spotlights, where we take a look at some of the wonderful mods people have been making and compare them to their real life fossil counterparts. And today, really awesome. We've kind of almost got a bit of a return to form. We've got a lot of like model edits and paleo edits coming out. So by OG Bear and Pickle. This one's going to be mostly Pickle, but the first one is OG Bears. So we've got a really cool assortment of paleo edits, almost like a return to form for the next couple episodes, and then we'll get back into the new species and talk about some of the wonderful animals there. So we're going to be starting off today with another paleo edit of Dimetrodon, everyone's favorite Permian Synapsid. And yeah, let's take a look at this one. This one is the only one in this video done by OG Bear, and the rest are done by Pickle, as we'll get through. So this one, you can tell it doesn't really drastically change, I don't think. You can see the changes in the skull, and I think the Swith Wyverns one was probably a little bit more intensive on the edit part, but when we have a look at the face here, I think the face is perfect. We can see the changes to the skull. That's what kind of the most obvious. And we can see here, they get the name, as I mentioned last time when we mentioned Dimetrodon. Dimetrodon means basically two types of teeth. And you can kind of see that represented here. They've got these large canines going on here. Really interesting. One thing as well is also they probably should be a little bit more upright, so kind of with a high walk, not splayed out like a lizard. I think some changes could be made to the sail there because they had a little bit more of an extended sail to the neck and kind of like that. The Swith Wyvern one had that. But also the tail was quite a bit shorter. They didn't have this long dragging tail like a crocodile. I don't think I mentioned that in the last one, but they didn't have this long dragging tail and all that. But you can see most of the changes to the skull. They've got this very rounded skull here compared to the one that was from Dominion that was literally just a T-Rex slapped on a Dimetrodon body. You can see the interesting characteristics of the skull, almost like that rounded going on here, and that almost hook going on here as well. Some pretty extensive lips as well, which is pretty awesome. And you can see that one hole back in here because they are synapsid. So synapsids include the mammal-like reptiles and us. So mammals, they have one hole in the skull, and most of the animals that we talk about here, the pterosaurs, crocodiles, lizards, snakes, dinosaurs, all of them, they are diapsid, so they have two holes in their skull in the back here. So that's kind of how you distinguish them. But yeah, I think OG Bear did a really great job with this one. I think the skin's actually been changed a little bit as well. Looks really nice. It'd be cool to see a really intensive edit to like really try and get it perfect, like with the shorter tail and everything. But really cool to see something like that, and especially love it on the Dominion skin because I like that red sail. I think that looks really nice. But yeah, I think this is good for our first one, so we'll let them walk off and do their thing. Just make sure they're not getting into the way of our next animals. So let's look like they are going to be doing that and being annoying. But let them run off and do their thing. So let's just speed that up. Boom. Okay, now that should be good. Next, we're looking at by Pickle. Pickle is a very popular paleo artist. And really cool that they're getting into the edits. We've got a Velociraptor edit, so we'll get into why it's not 100% accurate, but a really interesting edit. So I'm a big fan of this one, unironically. This reminds me of the from Dinosaur. You remember that movie Dinosaur from like the 2000s with the scaly Velociraptors? They were so good. But you can see a lot of the changes on here. You can see the most obvious one is the skull. The skull of the Jurassic Park Velociraptor is based much more on Deinonychus, which is a bit of a more bulky skull. Velociraptor, from what actual material we have of it, has a very kind of long and slender skull, as you can kind of see here as well. Looks really, really pretty and really rendered this well on here. You can see some of the changes here. That neck is a kind of a little bit shorter, and I think it looks quite a bit nicer. I do think it looks nicer. And you can see some changes here, a little bit more bird-like. You can see the body's kind of being like more rounded. You can see this large ischium coming back here, almost like how a lot of birds have. One thing is obvious, the pronated hands are still there, so they wouldn't be able to hold their wrists like that in life. They would have been to the side, almost like they're clapping or hugging something. We'll do that, and then you can see some changes of the feet. The sickle claws, you can see it's got a little bit more rounded by the looks of it. I think it looks much nicer. Add a lot more keratin on it, because often in paleo reconstructions, keratin is greatly underestimated, and there is, compared to modern animals, it's believed to be like up to like another half of the length of the claw can be covered in keratin, so it looks really nice here. Really long legs, and you see that really, really long tail, as you can kind of see here. So for a featherless, imagine they made a giant Velociraptor using genetic technology. This is perfect for that regard, but obviously the things that are wrong with it are no feathers. We know from a lot of relatives of Velociraptor, and even Velociraptor itself, there's evidence of quill knobs on its forearms. That greatly suggests that Velociraptor was covered in feathers, very similar to modern birds. Also, this animal was more related in size to kind of the Utahraptor, but in real life, Velociraptor was not much bigger than a turkey, probably no more than 15 to 20 kilos or so. That's pretty big estimate, so nothing too big, kind of that swan size, but still a decently sized animal. I wouldn't want to fight a Velociraptor. They've got big claws and bite you. I definitely would not want to mess with a Velociraptor, even the turkey-sized realistic version. And yeah, this is kind of sticking to that very much 90s style. The movie Dinosaur is a really great example of that. I think it came out rather well. And yeah, it's still a great example of these cool skins and things like that. It really did come out nice. But yeah, other than those obvious things I mentioned, this is quite a nice edit. Big fan. So let's move on. So let them run off, do their thing. Pickle did a wonderful job. Next one's also done by Pickle. We've got Proceratosaurus. So this one, as you can see, I didn't get to pause it. This one is a little bit less obvious. You can kind of see here there's some pretty minor changes. You can see the skull's kind of been like lengthened out a little bit, I think, and a little bit more rounded to make it a little bit more realistic. You can see also that crest came out rather nice. I do like the iris being like that. I think that's quite cool. Mainly just some minor changes to anatomy. You can kind of see that body's been a little bit more rounded out more. You can see those arms look like they've been extended a bit. And also, this is how most dinosaurs, pretty much all dinosaurs, should be able to hold their hands. Almost like they're clapping, so they're not pronated, they're supinated as well. You can kind of see what's really cool as well. It's got that more rounded body. Dinosaurs, especially birds, have pretty rounded bodies. And that's kind of like the least flexible part of their bodies. You can also see some changes to the legs. You can see that thighs been extended quite a bit, and the legs are kind of thinned out. A lot more like bird legs than kind of the traditional kind of really weird-looking kind of legs that they give to the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, almost like they've got gout. And you can see, I think, also the tail's been extended quite a bit as well. As you can see, it's kind of a little bit longer than normal. I think that's another thing that Jurassic Park does a lot. They make the dinosaurs' tails too short. But yeah, we don't really know that much, I don't think, about Proceratosaurus. But one thing that would be really cool, but obviously since there's been trouble adding feathers to different animals, this is a great candidate for feathers, because we know the early Tyrannosaurids or early Coelurosaurs had feathers. And as I've always talked about before, feathers may be basal to Dinosauria and even Ornithodyra, which is the group that includes pterosaurs and dinosaurs. So this is a great candidate to have feathers on, and there's a lot of reconstructions of Proceratosaurus and relatives such as Guanlong with feathers on, but weren't able to do that today. There might be something added in the future that I'll definitely be covering, of course. But yeah, really, really nice. Really, really awesome. And I think the skins look beautiful as well on this guy. Really nice to see those nice edits. You can also see that more S-shaped neck as well. The proper hands. See, they've got the big claw and the two smaller claws. Really, really perfect. That Hilux as well. I think that looks perfect. Like that pretty much looks like what Proceratosaurus would have looked like in life if it was plucked or it didn't have feathers. So yeah, really, really awesome. Really cool edit done by Pickle. I think Pickle really did a wonderful job. So let them run off and do their thing. Make sure they're not blocking it. So this is part of the Tyrannosaur pack. So this is all like Tyrannosaurids and animals like that. The Velociraptor was this kind of own separate thing. Next, we've got another one from the Tyrannosaur pack. We have got the Australornis. So this one's quite nice. Let's get you in the sunlight so we can take a look at you. So Australornis, from everyone's favorite new not South American, I was going to say Australian kind of Megaraptoran. Really, really awesome. Kind of the more famous ones. We can see some of the changes here. Another thing that I've kind of seen here, they also removed that, Pickle also removed that short, like, soft tissue crest that I really like on it. But that's okay. I think it still looks kind of nice. You still get that texturing. I really want to see an edit with has that on, which is I've found really, really cool. But you can see some changes here. The skull's been greatly extended. Those bigger Raptorans had those really, really long skulls. They're kind of the opposite of Tyrannosaurids. While Tyrannosaurids mostly got big and bulky and in their face region and all that and got tiny arms, these guys basically got those long, skinny skulls and these giant arms as we'll get into. But yeah, I really like this edit. You can see the kind of arms have been greatly beefed up and extended because Australornis had very large arms and was actually able to semi-pronate. There's been studies on the wrist mobility of Australornis, so they would have been able to semi-pronate the hands, which allowed them to catch prey. And you can also see the hands being greatly muscled up a bit and greatly extended and made bigger. And you can see these large claws. You can see particularly this claw here, enormous. I would argue that you could even put even more keratin like this. There's diagrams of talking about how keratin is so much adds so much to the shape of it, to the bone core. So this could definitely be much larger, though it could be, you could argue, dulled over time for the use of things like that. But really, really awesome. Really rounded body as well. I can kind of see that. A lot of these edits are pretty minor, but they really make the animal feel more realistic. And this is like kind of what I've imagined, especially this color. This particular thing with the no pattern, this is pretty much what I'd expect a realistic Australornis to look like. Something that's like a counter-shaded slightly to help camouflage in its environment. Looks just beautiful. I think it's come out rather well. You can also see some changes to the legs as well. Pickle has a really good understanding of dinosaur anatomy, which has really helped with these edits. And even though they're minor, you can see that the changes to the thigh there and greatly lengthened and leaned out a bit. Even the feet as well. I think the feet have also been made a little bit bigger, as you can kind of see there. And I think the tail's also been a little bit extended, as you can kind of see here. You can see it a little bit extended. Really adds to their profile, makes them feel like a much more realistic animal. And I gotta say, the skins on these guys look beautiful. I love the skins. Look at that. That is just beautiful. And it literally looks like the real animal. There's this Pickle's neck for making them just look so nice. And I think it's come out rather excellently. So yeah, let them move on and do their thing. So we're moving on to the bigger Tyrannosaurs now, of the Tyrannosaur pack that's done by Pickle. Now moving to Asia, we've got Kinshawsaurus. So we can have a look at some of the major changes seen here. They look almost goofy. Look at that lean body and those big eyes. Really, really makes them look interesting. They're almost like the cheetahs of the Tyrannosaurs, you could say. So these come from their own group with an animal called Alioramus, one of these like electrosaurines, I believe you say that. Like Alioramus and things like guys. They were like this group of Tyrannosaurs that got really, really lean and mean. And they had this really interesting ecology. And that niche was almost taken in America by young Tyrannosaurs, so that's really, really interesting. You can see the skull has been greatly elongated and kind of extended and leaned out a bit to make it look much more like the accurate animal. And you can see it can't even really close its mouth. It's got also named the Pinocchio Rex because of its long nose. You know how Pinocchio lies, he gets a long nose. That's kind of how it's got its name. You can also see they added the bony cores or the keratin on the head there. Was added on the model, which looks really, really nice, and I think makes it look great. You can also see it's also greatly thinned out the neck. Body's been much more rounded. The arms are actually quite beefy compared to most other tyrannosaurs, which is really, really interesting and quite lengthy. You can see it's got a long, lean, and mean body. Also, the tail's been extended a bit. As I mentioned, most Jurassic World dinosaurs or Jurassic Park dinosaurs have tails that are way too short. We've also got these long, lean, and mean. You can see also that the changed as well. You see the feet have been a little bit more leaned up, so they're not quite as big and fat as the original model. Also, these long, lean, and mean legs, because most of the muscle in dinosaur legs, if you look at birds' legs, most of that power is kind of in the thigh and here, and all of this is pretty much the metacarpal areas, all just tendons. And considering this animal and the ratio to the tibia and the fibula and all that, these guys are definitely built for running. They have that kind of ecology. Pursuit predators. They'd be hunting all sorts of small animals, even smaller anthropods, smaller dinosaurs. They would be hunting them. And this ecology was very interesting, especially since there's almost like these two kind of families or versions of tyrannosaurs. There's kind of these lean, mean tyrannosaurs that were like Alioramus, Kinshawsaurus, Electrosaurus, things like that. And then you have animals such as Tarbosaurus and Tyrannosaurus are kind of went the opposite way, becoming the big, bulky animals that we all know and love. So, yeah, this is kind of a really interesting one to talk about. You can see the interesting change there. They do really look beautiful. I really like the skins as well. I think the skin system, especially the randomization, has really improved in Jurassic World Evolution. Really makes making new dinosaurs all the time. You always have something different. Really, really awesome. So, penultimate, also done by Pickle, we have got Albertosaurus. But let's pause that there and have a look at these two guys here. Oh, this one probably looks a little better. I like that pose. These guys are just such posers, aren't they? But we've got here Albertosaurus. So they're in their own group of tyrannosaurs, the Albertosaurines. So this is also relatives like Gorgosaurus and Daspletosaurus. And you can see the differences here. Such beautiful animals. You can see they've almost got that in between. You have, we'll see with Tyrannosaurus because that's the last one, that incredibly bulky and boxy skull. And you have a look at the Kinshawsaurus or Pinocchio Rex, got the very lean skulls. These guys are kind of that in between, so they didn't get quite as big as Tyrannosaurus Rex and Tarbosaurus, but they've got a very big, bulky skull, as you can kind of see here. One thing I really like as well is that the original design for the game obviously had those really huge crests on them, and I think that's really cool that they've been interpreted as these like tall, bony bosses or keratin coming up on the bosses there, which I think is really, really cool. I think it adds not only to the design, but I think it adds to the accuracy, since these guys probably had some very interesting crest displays. And we also know from some research that there was a lot of face biting in these guys, especially most theropod dinosaurs. So that could potentially be something to help with biting and preventing biting like around the eyes and things as well. So that's really, really cool. You can see the skull's been changed quite a bit. You can see it's also got a little bit of a lean and mean skull. Tyrannosaurs, both Kinshawsaurus, and they've also famed for their binocular vision, so they would be able to see in kind of 3 dimensions in front of them, so they're better at judging depth, almost like primates and we do. So really, really helps with hunting in that regard, especially with running after prey. You can see also that neck. They have lots of very powerful muscles, as we'll see in T-Rex as well. Some changes to the body. Makes it much more lean and mean. They've also got quite big arms. They've got the 2 fingers, which most of those later tyrannosaurs have. Same with Kinshawsaurus, as you can see over there. And yeah, you can also see the pubic boot going on there. Kind of that rounded body. You can see the tail, I believe, has also been slightly extended. You can kind of see here. You can see that also the legs have been changed, thinned out, just make it look much more like the realistic animal, or the as much as we know about Albertosaurus, which is quite a lot. We know quite a bit about Albertosaurus, which is great. We have some bone beds and know about their growth and things like that, which is really awesome. And yeah, I do really like these Albertosaurus. I think this is kind of my favorite edit for these guys. Really has come out wonderfully. Pickle's really done a great job. And this skin, I like the skinners in particular. It looks really pretty. Really, really awesome. So yeah, let them go up and do their thing. So last but most certainly not least, we've got everyone's favorite big bad. This one was also done by Pickle as the last member of the Tyrannosaur pack that he did to kind of make it more paleo accurate. We have got Tyrannosaurus Rex. So we got, of course, yet another paleo edit for everyone's favorite T-Rex. And we can see there's been a few changes. They're mostly to the skull, as you can see here. The Roberta's skull, or the Jurassic Park skull, is very different from an actual T-Rex skull. You can tell these guys are very big and boxy. Like, it's just impressive how boxy their skull is. You also see the extension of lips as well. Also see some more of those keratin kind of bosses around the eye there. The eyes are enormous. T-Rex had enormous eyes, and they had pretty good binocular vision as well. So they were very great at seeing, and also at these large noses. They had potentially eyesight comparable to like eagles, and smell capable, like very similar to things like crocodilians and vultures. So very good sense of smell and sight. So they would have been pretty great predators. Well, look at you because you're kind of the innocent means. You can see a big bulky skull there in the binocular vision, as you can kind of see there. I'd personally like add a little bit more kind of keratin and stuff to here, but that's fine. You can see those big bulky jaws that used to crush prey, and they had very bulky jaws to be able to crush prey, because these guys were living in ecosystems with animals such as ceratopsians and ankylosaurs, which have very bony parts, just the frill of triceratops and the osteoderms of ankylosaurus. So very, very powerful jaws to deal with those. You can also see some change of the skull, neck there. You can see a little bit of extension there. Really creating that thick neck that they've got there to carry around that big head. Also, you can see the changes to the hands. That looks really, really nice. I think they've even been made a little bit smaller, and you can kind of see the differences, the changes there. The kind of second digit's a little bit longer than the first, and the first a little bit bigger. So it looks really, really nice. Also see that really, really round body they got there. T-Rex is a very round body. Even like from the front, you can see it's got a very barrel chest. Let's say even this one's probably a little bit conservative. They've got a very round barrel chest. Because they're big, bulky animals, getting up to like 6 to 9 tons, so very big. You can also see very large legs. There hasn't been so much edits to the legs as the other ones, but you can see these guys got very, very large feet, very bird-like as well. And they have a lot of adaptations to be able to walk long distances at low energy, so they would be quite cursorial is the term. They're able to walk quite far and quite well, which is also really cool, and they look rather, rather nice. And I think the tail's also been extended a bit, as you can kind of see here, because T-Rex had quite a long tail. But yeah, really, really awesome to see all these paleo edits coming out. So hope you guys like them all. Pickle did a really wonderful job with all of them. And if we go back to the Dimetrodon, I think OG Bear's done a really great job. And OG Bear, if you're watching this, don't worry. I'm going to be covering all 10 of the rest of your first pack in the first and the next episode. So part 26 is going to be all about you. So don't worry about that. So, yeah, I think this would be a great place to end the video. So I really, really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the little bell icon to get notified about anything. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And bye-bye.